There he is, the number 6, Xavi, old school.
I am old school, getting older school by the day, but I love it.
You look great, man.
My prized possession, my son's got an autograph from Messi addressed to Calvin, but I'll settle for a signed Xavi jersey any day of the week.
Very cool. Love it. How you been?
I've been good. I'm mixed. I think if you try enough things, you can't always succeed at everything. So pretty good. Yeah, having a good time and fighting the good fight. I would say that on multiple fronts. And I got to take a segue here just because you and I share something in common, being techies in our other life. I don't know, beginner listeners, I don't know if you know, Gary's a physics professor and I'm a chief technology officer at a medical device company. But I got to say, Elon Musk had a great week, eh? Oh my God. I don't know. How many times did you watch the booster catch?
I can't count. I know it's under 100. That's all I can really say for sure. But it's the most outrageous thing ever, like ever. I have nothing that is comparable that I can point to.
I agree. This is something I think it's lost on most of the population, unfortunately, but maybe history will be kind to this. But and I would love to see a camera view from the booster itself. I don't know. I don't think they have one, but just, because you see the booster falling and you really don't get a feel for how fast it's falling, right? It's screaming fast. And then from where it is up in the stratosphere to hit that target is just jaw dropping to me. It was, and I know you felt the same. But that wasn't his only thing in the week. He had the Tesla show, and I don't know if you caught that, but I'm sure you did. But, he takes a lot of heat, for being a little forward looking, and he's optimistic on his schedules, but that's to motivate people. But anyways, the iRobot, the car, the self-driving car, it was not only working, they had 50 of them, but they looked good. And the bus, the Wii robot, I think it's called, the bus was stylish, beauty. And the robots were sick. To be honest, I thought that it was voice assisted by a human. It was so real. But what was definitely real was the gesturing. As they were speaking, the hand gesturing was just elegant.
Smooth and natural, not robotic at all. It's just outrageous. I have no words to describe it. And it's interesting that he takes so many arrows. I like to think of it as the pioneers always take the arrows, whether it be Newton, Galileo, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, the guys who truly make a dent in advancing civilization forward. They're always kind of like, I don't know, they throw tomatoes at them and peanuts at them. It's insane how the populace turns against our heroes. And I do believe that these guys, in retrospect, will eventually, maybe it'll be post-mortem or something, they'll be looked at as heroes of humanity.
I hope so. He's, I don't want to live on Mars under any circumstances, because the weather is worse than I grew up in Buffalo. So I'm not doing that. But he's, his vision and just the scope of what he's doing is unprecedented on any one of his projects. And he's got bandwidth that is just staggering. It's just,
but Terry, if my dad had an emerald mine, I would be landing rockets on little towers as well.
like, wow.
It's so outrageous, man, irrespective of the falsity of that story, because everybody wants to say, oh, he's some sort of Nepo baby or something, which I think is ridiculous. But even if, let's say he was given $500,000 or something at the very outset, great. If all you guys think it's so easy, here, go get yourself a loan out of your house, $500,000 loan or $1 million loan. Any kind of middle-class person can kind of do that if they leverage or more remortgage their house or something of that. It's not an outrageous sum, okay? And go for it. Go build, Tesla, go build SpaceX, go be 10 times better than NASA, go be 10 times better than the automotive industry, go beat their lobbies, in government as well. Go battle the United States government who's been against you for so goddamn long and stymie you every which way. Go ahead, go and build PayPal and take on the banking industry and the banking lobby and central banking. Oh my God, like it's just outrageous. I don't think that, how we say in jest that Messi's an alien, like it's not possible or something like this. It's the same or 10 or 100 times more so the way I view Elon. It's extraterrestrial.
It's the scope of every single project he does is ginormous. And any one of them would be very difficult to, and a monumental lifetime achievement. And he's got, and he's how old is he now? He's
I
young.
think he's like 52, maybe something like that.
Yeah.
He's still young.
Oh my God. The things I hope I live long enough to see what he's doing. It's entertaining.
And Terry, this will be a good segue into our chat today. And we have a taste of it. You, more than I, in the technology sector, from an entrepreneurial perspective, you actually know how hard it is to build things in the
Yeah.
world,
It's hard.
and then not only build things, but make them work and commercialize them, which is a whole other ball of wax there. And not only build and commercialize it, but then be successful, and have the business survive over a number of years. I've had my little forays into entrepreneurship myself, two companies, three companies actually. One failed initially, the other one is still ongoing and profitable, but it's a micro company. It's a lifestyle business more than anything. It's just a six-figure sort of thing. And then obviously the agency side of the equation. And they preoccupy so much bandwidth and brain cycles. And these are micro entrepreneurial efforts, so again, I am in awe, absolute awe of this human.
Likewise, I'm orders of magnitude, different. I have had some successes. I've had a lot of failures, but he's again, orders of magnitude. And I don't know if people realize what that is. It's true. One comment on Messi, since you brought it up, I was thinking in comparing, Musk and what Messi means to soccer. And again, I know there's people that are in Ronaldo's camp and things like that. But Messi, to me, and I think to you, is head and shoulders the best player of his time over 15 years. And the number of footballers in the world is a huge number. It's maybe 1 billion players. I don't know, at various levels, obviously, or maybe it's close. But he is standing out amongst, and again, maybe I'm off by a factor, let's say 500 million players. And he's excelling incredibly beyond that number. And again, I don't think we appreciate what we have in him. I know, and I commit Pele, Maradona, great. But the numbers and the advanced technology of the professional athlete today, and his, breaking away, and you see all the charts, all the stats, and just the pure beauty of his play. Just screw the numbers. Just watch. It's in that, I don't know. It's in that category of, can't get my head around it. So anyway, since you brought it up.
Yeah. So from a soccer perspective, what's been going on with you? We've remained in contact sparsely over the past year or two, since we kind of were on this podcast regularly,
Yeah.
and doing, taking some steps forward and trying to learn ourselves, and then educate on promotion relegation. So you reached out. Or actually, I reached out, you reached out, we kind of communicated that maybe we should record another episode on two main topics. One topic is obviously promotion and relegation, which is, I think, the most important topic there is to discuss. And now you have personal firsthand experience with it versus perhaps what it used to be, which is not that skin in the game previously, is more of a philosophical, theoretical sort of thing. And then the other thing is, obviously, you have another entrepreneurial venture that's been ongoing, which is the soccer school, blending academics and soccer. So I don't know which one you want to start with. I would suggest maybe the promotion relegation thing, but just to inform our audience, because since we last spoke, we've gotten more members who may have not have heard of those past discussions. Maybe just a brief 60-second intro, if you will, if you can squeeze in who is Terry Ransbury, and then take it from there, man, from your experiences with your son.
Okay, so I am an entrepreneur in the soccer space. I was one of a couple co-founders of a private school system, a network now called Accelerator School, and we cater to not only soccer players, we have hockey players and golfers and tennis players now, but we cater to those athletes in middle and high school that are really passionate about their activity, in this case, sport, soccer. So we've got a network. I've got a school in Spain. I'll talk a little bit about that as relative to promotion relegation. And then in Raleigh, where we started in 2016. So we do that. My son is a product of the school, and we're going to talk about him. And it's education in a different format than what you do, but it's really education in soccer mix. And what we really do is we cater to the player that travels frequently, and we want to accommodate their academic environment, give them time to recover post trips, but excel. And we know that, as we often say, plan B, the education often becomes plan A sooner than you think. So that's what it is.
Got it. So why don't we start there? Because I'm curious myself as to what progress you've made on the academic side. As you mentioned earlier, I teach physics at the university level. I've been doing that for quite a while now. I kind of am going to age myself if I say how long I've been doing it, but it's been a while. And I have seen a degradation in student quality since I started. So I think I started teaching at the university maybe 15, 16, 17 years ago. I don't know exactly when, but it's in that ballpark. And when I first started, I saw a lot of myself as a student reflected in the students. So hardworking, consistent, had a lot of grit to them, had a long attention span, were relatively technically competent, could read and write legibly, a whole host of things that they'd kind of like, okay, this is the standard student, 15, 20 years ago. And then I kid you not, over the course of the last 10, 15, 20 years, it has gotten to the point where the student quality is frankly abysmal, abysmal. So why is that? I have several thoughts or theories, and this is obviously going to segue into your Accelerator School momentarily, but the advent of social media and attention spans that it dwindles, I'm sure had some sort of impact, undoubtedly, but I don't attribute it all to that. I think they just come to the university level unfit and unprepared in the academic realm. So somebody's failing in high school. The teaching institutions are failing the students in high school. And even before then, they're failing the kids in elementary school and in junior high. So I don't know how, frankly, a lot of these kids have progressed grades and progressed throughout high school and passed their classes, to eventually get to me. And they can barely read at this
Mhm.
point. They can barely write. I mean, sometimes they write their names on their paper. I'm like, what is this? I can't make an A from an E, from a D, from a B. Like, I have no idea what is going on here. It's all chicken scratch. From a numerical literacy, if you will, they are illiterate. That's not the right word, but they can't do out basic algebra, not to mention, calculus and those sorts of things. They're way down the chain, but basic things, Terry. And I have had to lower my standards systematically because there's an implicit incentive in the institutions that the students need to progress. And what they mean by progress, it means passing. Okay. So the bar for a C has dropped systematically, as has the bars for A's and B's. And so I've been a big advocate of homeschooling, perhaps, and I've been a big advocate of private schools cropping up that have, smaller student to teacher ratios, perhaps, and have an academic rigor that has some sort of baseline above what the public institutions, the traditional institutions have. So with that, maybe, I don't know if you want to make any remarks on that, but I thought that would be a good intro to what it is that you've been doing the past handful or 10 years with the academic school that you have founded and have
Yeah,
been expanding.
I would like to comment since you asked. I agree with most of what you're saying as far as attention span is a problem. And I think a lot of what your standards used to be required some in-depth thought, a little bit. And I think this is hard for kids nowadays. They want to be entertained and they want it in 10 seconds. And if it's not in 10 seconds, it's boring to them and they move on and they just dismiss it. And I think that's a problem. I do think institutionally, when I grew up, the big dread was you had to go to summer school, or fail. Fail. So-and-so has to repeat third grade, which in the long run is better for the kid. I know there's some social stigma to failing, but get over it. When you get out of school, I fail all the time. And it teaches me at a rate probably better than success. So we see it in our school. Now, I'm very lucky. I get high quality families that value education. And it's private and they pay money, but they pay because they think it's worth it, even if they're stretching to pay for it. And, we try and help out when we can, but I have, and my teachers have way less of a problem environment than say the public schools, which, also there's a lack of respect for the teacher, the language in the classroom from the kids and the disrespect to the adults, teachers is abhorrent and it's unacceptable. And I would have got my ass whipped as from my parents if any of that happened, and I would be presumed, guilty upon the call home. Mrs. Ransbury, your son is in the principal's office now, and my parents would come in. What did he do? not defending them or defending me or whatever. So it's a complicated issue. And I think also the material has to match the student a little bit. We have to entertain them to teach them nowadays. And it's just fact. We have to do that. And I would say we're a private micro school, and we have a very different way of looking at student teacher ratio, where, basically they just count and give you the ratio. I don't think of it that way. I think of our school, and we're not unique on this. There's others, but you are in your own school, and say you and I start, and we have part online curriculum and part we insist on teachers in the classroom. You have to have a different way of speaking to the same problem, and all of a sudden the light goes off and we get it. But here's typically how we do. You and I start off, and within minutes we're out of sync. You're ahead of me in this. I'm more interested in, and we allow the kids, if you're in the zone, go for it and make progress, even at the expense of, well, it's 45 minutes. We're supposed to change subjects. We try not to, we let them do that. And then when they're stuck, you go to the teacher and you go up there in person and you say, I'm stuck here. And that's resolved one-on-one. And then you're back to your desk and you're working at your own pace. And so this is very different way of learning than when we grew up and we were one of 30 kids in the classroom and we got the same metronome every time. And then if we control the pace in the school calendar, if you fall behind, we can pause and catch you up, right? When I grew up, if you missed Monday because you were tired from your soccer trip, you missed Monday, and they didn't stop to catch you up, and you could go in for extra help, but that was unusual behavior. So all of that is leading, and then COVID is a whole other story, and I won't go into it, but we see a really decline in the student capacity to learn, especially the ones that were in middle school in the COVID year. And it was COVID years, not just year. So we see that, and we see all they can't write and they don't, talk to each other much. They text, and even if they're next to each other, they're texting and they can't make eye contact and all that stuff. And we try and fight that. My first thing on day one, I come in and I shake their hands and I make them make eye contact. This is my contribution to you day one. We're shaking hands with a firm handshake. You're making eye contact because the rest of the world respects that, and you need to know that. And it's just a start. And again, I don't do anything really in the school teaching wise. Occasionally I do, but the teachers they're passionate, and we have a pretty easy school day. They train in the morning, so we're in the classroom from 11 to about 3:30, give or take on different schools. And so the day for the teacher is shorter, and it's refreshing, and they're rejuvenated, and they're enthusiastic, and then they get the benefit of pretty good kids with very good parental support. So again, it's for those that want to be there, there's the opportunity. And I think those students are great, and they're going to be academic successes and business successes and citizen successes. But unfortunately, they're smaller, but there's a movement towards what we do and invent it. We're just copying some of the good stuff, and hopefully it catches on. And, the moms that did the homeschooling really paved the way for this. For 30 years ago, there was jack available for curriculum. And now the stuff is awesome. In fact, if it wasn't for the NC2A, I would flush the curriculum and build my own. And imagine this, if you didn't have to spend a semester at least, or if not a year, taking biology, if you just can't stand biology. No, I agree. You need to force the kids to be exposed to it, or they won't. And, some catch on, but if you don't like it, and my kids all did, what am I going to use this in adult life? Well, you might not. And so it's okay, but expand your brain, please. And you will enjoy life at a fuller level. And I firmly believe that. So anyways, I would dump, that, and it's the college requirement of the basics and how much time you have to spend, and at the expense of personal finance, which is our number one elective we push. Personal finance needs to be taught to everybody because it matters. And people, you don't want to learn when you're applying for your first mortgage, because you're going to get screwed, and you don't know the value of, compound interest and all that stuff, and saving for retirement and just calculating, putting away, that a few dollars when you're 21 or whenever your first job matters a ton. And, the population is woefully behind on that and living paycheck to paycheck. But my daughter is a very undercompensated professional ballet dancer, and she funded her Roth IRA this year, and she knows what one is, and she does it on, babysitting money and things like that. So there are things available if you want to be that way. But again, I think unfortunately the demands to get into college are very rigorous and very antiquated as far as the material and the amount of time you have to spend on it.
I have so many remarks. But before we get to these remarks, really quick, how many schools do you currently have, and where are they at?
So we've got Raleigh since 2016. We've got Houston. I had to suspend my Southern California one, unfortunately, due to lack of interest, but we're going to revitalize it. We have a new place and we will be back next year. We have a school in Spain. We have remotes all over the planet that have either left the soccer academy in Spain or found out about us by word of mouth. We've got all over the Philippines, Argentina, France, and high-level soccer players that are playing above our level who just either were in Spain and moved up or heard about us word of mouth. So we've got a network of things. And again, I can tell you I've succeeded at some and most and have failed, but we'll continue to fight because it really works. Our early wave of graduates have all done very well. We've got full ride to Lehigh Engineering. We've got kids at Duke. We've got very good academic success. We're just at low numbers because we started with middle schoolers and they're just passing up through the graduation now.
Yeah, and it's an idea that's whose time has come or it's coming.
Oh,
I
for
think
sure.
more and more. So even when you started in 2016, yes, these sorts of things kind of existed, but not really, and the populace didn't really think about it all that much as an option. And I think more and more new parents or younger folks are starting to realize that there's an alternative path to the traditional one and a better path. So I think obviously, just like any entrepreneurial venture, just keep going, right? Just keep going. And eventually the wave and the wind will be at your back
Oh, I can tell you, we've got competitors now, a lot of them, and
for
it's
sure.
fine. And it's the right thing to do as far as I'm concerned. And it started back with the tennis guys in Florida, actually. And then the education, I think, was maybe not great. Maybe there's some private one-on-one or homeschooling that happened, but there's no reason you can't excel at both. And really, time and energy management is the key because these kids put in a lot of time in travel and they're tired. And you need to recognize that and that's what we do best. And I think that's the best service you can provide. And it's very individualistic. And unfortunately, that's not the way public schools work. And they've got a different mandate and it's very difficult.
Okay, so what about the soccer component? Tell us a little bit about that.
So we train in the morning and it also helps their academic. You take some energy off of young boys and they're better students. Research is, and I can tell you, we've lived it. So we train. And again, we have some luxuries of, first of all, we can train on a full pitch. And again, people don't get, if you're in the club where, and again, there's several around and I won't bash one of them, but it's the biggest club in the United States. My son grew up in that for a while and we had a fifth of a field. And in
Wow.
the game, you're asking the winger or the right back, if they were sophisticated enough to play their right back up, to make a cross into the box, and they haven't had the room to practice one. And how many chances do you get in the game? And anyway, so we can do that. We can set that up, and you can kick a lot of them, and you can practice some things. And then the other thing that we fight is that the pressure in the clubs are making kids that are so afraid of making mistakes. They're robotic and they're conservative flares. And we tell them at the school, listen, it's okay to make mistakes. If you want to try something fancy, we make sure that's appropriate. But if you want to try something, we encourage you to try it and build up reps and get a mindset of creativity on the field as best we can do. And then work on things that the clubs can't work on because they have one coach and we've got more than one for less people sometimes that are on the team. And so we can segregate with abilities and we try to do some fun things and we let them scrimmage because they want to. And we do that. It's not all drilling. And we're trying to minimize the amount of cones on the pitch. We want a defender in the equation. And, my life changed on many fronts. But in one thing I'll tell you about, we were at Racing Club down in Argentina and I was watching, and I don't remember how old they were at the time, but I would say they were 2002s and they had to be in their early teens. I don't know what they're playing 1v1 with a goalie and they're scoring 8 out of 10. In the US, we warm up in the games and there's no goalie and the coach is, dumping a ball. Half the shots aren't on goal. The contrast there was just eye-opening. And so Mariano, our soccer coordinator, he's Argentine, and he's like, oh my God, cones are driving me crazy with you American guys. We need a defender. We need this. So we try and incorporate that when we can do it too. And and, get game situations. And then we can also explain why. And we try and emphasize information processing out there. But first of all, put yourself on the pitch in the position where your area of observation is maximized to obtain information. And then can we help decision making? Because we all believe the brain's most important thing in football, as my little shabby thing shows you there. I mean, a guy physically probably would have got cut off of his high school team, whatever. Here, I'm exaggerating, but he probably wouldn't have. But he would have been questionable when, we emphasize different things. So we have that opportunity to do that in freedom. And again, on a big pitch. So we try and take advantage of that. And then again, quick shower, snack, and, they eat all day. Teachers call it grazing. And it's okay. They have calories. They need them. And so we try and accommodate all that.
God, and then the academics come after that, and then they're out by 3, I think you said?
3:30, depends. If there's a long commute to club training, we don't do the club. We don't play games we're just midweek. We're trying to accelerate them, hence the name of the school. We're trying to accelerate their progress. And, can I segue into your last couple podcasts about, I got an opinion on development versus winning.
Sure, you go ahead, man.
All right. So I think the last 2 podcasts were great, and people need to see those and absorb them. But I can tell you, for my 20-year-old son, looking at his career now, would he look back and say, am I glad I got developed, or am I glad I won all those tournament and games? And it's not a choice at all. You want to be developed at that point because it's kind of late. It's too late. If you want to play, post-college, you want to play what they call in Europe semi-pro or amateur football, which is very damn good. But if you want to be a professional at any level, you need to be developed. Now, with that said, you need to learn how to win, how to run out the clock. And you brought this up too. You're up 2-0 or 2-1. You play that differently, 2-0 to 2-1 at the end of the game to win that game. And then you need to learn to come from behind. And it's mental, not giving up. And you get those, you're down 0-2 with very little time left, and you end up drawing or winning that game or whatever. And you need to learn that too. And part of that is, emotional and psychological grit. And that needs to be encouraged and taught. So, I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth here, but I'm emphasizing development way over winning. No one looks back and say, oh God, we won the, summer classic.
No, I just think that typically that is the posture of most folks, that they would agree with you. And I would agree with you too, that nobody looks back and says, gosh, the best thing that ever happened to me was winning this tournament or that tournament. All that stuff is irrelevant. The problem is that I think that sort of framing is not the correct framing, right?
It's the wrong framing because it's in retrospect and it's too late. Yes.
No, but no. But I'm saying having that sort of framing in the discussion of winning versus development is the incorrect framing, because everybody agrees with that statement. You know what I'm saying? Even people who think that winning is very important agree with that statement, right? That you win the tournament and all that stuff doesn't matter. I think we completely in general miss what the value of competition and wanting to win brings to development. I think that is a much better framing for the discussion. You see, so it's very simple for those folks out there. I'm not saying that you're one of them. When they pom the development over winning thing, they do it in the wrong framing, Terry. And some of them even do it conveniently, because they frame it in such a way that you can't argue against it at all, and then they win the argument, right? Which is development over winning. So I think that is the nuance here, is like, okay, what does a truly competitive, wanting to win environment do for the development of the player?
It helps because it makes the practices more intense, and the appetite to learn and execute and practice outside of your club time. All that makes a big difference.
Yeah. And then going along that chain of thought, going the other extreme and saying, oh, guys, hey, we don't care about winning. It doesn't matter. Yeah. That sets a tone and in training, in the club, in the team, in the credibility of the coach player relationship. It sets a tone that impairs development, or it goes against development.
Agreed.
So it erodes the relationship between development and winning. You see, so I have never seen it really as two opposing forces. I see them both sides of the same coin. And I think you have to work to kind of, there has to be some sort of optimization function, right? Where you're trying
Yes.
to you have to optimize development while simultaneously optimizing winning, or maximizing your winning. That is the goal, and never give up one over the other. So for instance, you can go the other way. Hey, I want to win at all costs, so I'm never going to give this kid a fighting chance for playing time or all these sorts of things because he's way behind the rest of them. So that's
Yep.
the other end of the spectrum. But I'm not so sure everybody or anybody's really doing that all that frequently. I don't know.
Agree.
So I don't know. That's really, I think, where the crux of the matter is in this quote unquote debate. I actually hate it because I feel like it develops a bad culture here in the States anyway.
Agree. But I think you said something in the podcast that makes a lot of sense to me. For the coach to communicate with the parents what the plan is ahead of time. And you mentioned sometimes you realize you're just the worst team in the league.
Yeah.
And you can admit that. Or you say, look, we're going to play out of the back until it's 5-0, and then we'll punt the ball along. But we want to do this, and we're going to take our lumps, but you're going to see progress throughout the season. And that's, again, hard on a daily basis, but in a worse season, you should see that. And I think if you do that, you get parents on your side. They'll be supportive. And yeah, there's a parent that wants to win badly and complains, but you're doing the right thing. But I think communicating is the key to that. And the buy-in. And I can tell you the parents I deal with want to have the environment good. And I think they'll agree that, hey, if we develop better, we're likely to win more. And then I think if you look at, I would bet most of the professional players won almost everything in their youth anyways, because they were, they were probably influential on their team, dragged the team up, and they quickly got advanced to a group of winners or a group of great talent.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because there's a survivorship bias associated with all this as well. Because when you interview the great players, Xavi, Iniesta, Messi, to mention the Barca guys, or anybody globally, well, they reach the highest levels. You know what I'm saying? And so that means you were very good all along the way, which means you probably won a lot. Generally speaking, sure, there's exceptions here or there who were on losing teams or terrible teams, but generally speaking, come on, you were probably competing for most of your youth career at the highest tier in whatever country you were at. Okay, you were probably in a professional academy, these sorts of things. So your team was probably good and it was very competitive and you wanted to win and you won some and you lose some. But you get up there and they have the largest microphone because they survived the process. And then they go back and they're like, oh yeah, winning doesn't matter at all. And they frame it the way that most people have framed it, that it's all about development and not winning youth trophies. Yes, but that is not the point, says Fabregas. That is not the point, that Pep Guardiola. And by the way, for folks who are not as well traveled as you or I in the soccer sphere, they'll just repeat or regurgitate some things that happen here in the American soccer media that state like, oh, well, they don't really care about winning in Spain or in England or in Belgium or in France or whatever. My balls, they don't care about winning. Okay. My balls. Like some of the halftime talks that I heard, from the sidelines of the Barcelona La Masia coaches reaming their 13, 12-year-old players hard, you know what I'm saying? And even singling some out and saying, you're not playing the rest of the second half. Get out of here, blah, 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 blah. People here would be shocked or floored at what vocabulary is said at times too, So there's just a lot of misguided ideas and notions in the country, but I don't know. I'm glad you brought this up, Terry. If you have other thoughts, go for it. But I thought this would be also a good transition into your experience with your son overseas and promotion and relegation, because it's all tied together.
Let's segue there. And I'll start by saying, I was a logical believer in promotion relegation. A lot thanks to your podcasts over the years, but it just made sense to me, right? And a lot of our old podcasts went into, the other parallel paths of the economics and all the benefits that come with it. And yes, there is that financial hit for those that get relegated, but that's more for a different conversation. And we've documented a lot of that. But I want to tell you what it's like personally to actually live it through my son. Now, I didn't play, right? So it's not me, but I can tell you, for those that want to turn off the podcast already, promotion, relegation is so much better than you can believe when you live it, as opposed to when you just believe it or just think about it, or you want to dismiss it because you want to disagree to be disagreeable. I don't know. So here's how it goes. Every single game, play, thing matters. And I say this with the most sincerity I can give you. As a parent, I'm calling, so let me backswing on Calvin, because I'm just assuming everybody knows. My son, Calvin, went through our Accelerator School. Sophomore year, he went over to Spain to be at the FC Malaga City Academy. Fantastic experience. And, went through our high school, but he left home at 15, which was not an easy decision for mom and dad, but we let Calvin see it and make his own decision. But I was super glad he did it. And then in hindsight, independent of the soccer, football, he's had a life experience that I could only wish for everybody. He's now in Germany after being in Spain. He's trilingual. He's not afraid to travel. He's had horrible travel experiences as a youth, just by airline travel, that has made him tougher as a human being, and just the people he's met and the friends that he can see, and just life experience of traveling in between games and et cetera, et cetera. So, and I want to tell Americans, it's doable. I'm not super wealthy, and it really wasn't a money thing. It was just being aware and just going for it. And in fact, if you put your kid in private school, I can tell you, going to Spain at the academy is less money. It's comparable. So it's not a financial hit. Again, private school is a big deal. I get that. But so he graduated from our high school, and then he was still at the Malaga Academy, graduated from the academy, and they were formed by two clubs merging together. So they happened to have in their circumstance a provincial border in between, and they inherited two first teams. And one played in 5th division, the other played in 6th. Calvin played on the 6th division team, and I don't have a common opponent to tell you at what level that is, but I can tell you it's pretty damn good soccer. Did you open the email I sent you for the notes on this?
No, I didn't even see you sent me an email.
So first of all, open the email and take a look at the 2 pictures that are on there. You're going to laugh at those. So what he's looking at is an event that changed my life. And that was sending Calvin. He and I went out to the West Coast to a 3-4-3 soccer camp. And you see the picture with you and Calvin there?
Yeah.
And then see what he looks like today. So he's
a young man.
He's a young man. He's 20 years old now, about to be 21 in March. But he was trust me, if you could see the picture, he was a little lad. But it just got us on the track of thinking about going outside the US, and we just did it. And it was a gut thing. And again, looking back, tremendously good decision. So he's now played a year there in 6th. And then he got a call on short notice from not an agent, but a guy dealing in players over in Germany. And a week later, he's off on a plane to Germany. Played 6th division last year, which I think was a step up from the one in Spain. And again, it's very regional. And then he went through the season, and in this particular level, 6th division, Landesliga, he's up in the northwest corner of Germany, 12 miles from the Netherlands border, where it rains a lot, by the way. But they played, and in that case, they promote 1 and they relegate 6. And people that ask, well, how do they do that? It doesn't mathematically work out. Well, if you look at the numbers of teams, the number of opportunities to play post-college for men, this is men, he plays against men in 6th division. And the composition is this. There's guys that have played 3rd division and are in the twilight of their career, and they're playing in their hometown because they want to live there. And it just happens to be 6th division. It would be 4th or 5th or whatever, but they love the game and they can't leave it yet. And they're savvy players, and they've lost a step, right? Okay, but where does that rank as far as, are they, and again, I talked to a few people trying to get a feel. I would say the league would be very competitive at Division I college level for sure. And then I don't know, because our leagues don't overlap and play enough. Can you tell me whether USL 1 is much better than NPSL?
I've never seen a NPSL match, so I have no idea.
You can't tell, but let's just talk about the numbers. I'll tell you the numbers.
The only gauge I have, if it's worth anything, is so USL League 1, which is the one right beneath the championship, right? So it's our 3rd tier. Yes. I can tell you that they're better than Division 1's college. That's all I can basically say, but not hugely better, but better.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I can tell you 7th division is competitive for sure. I've seen enough 7th division over there. It's competitive and good. And sixth division, competitive, good. There's a big jump at fifth division. There's a big jump at fourth, third, second, and then obviously,
Sure.
Bundesliga's outrageous. But just the numbers of and why I think the quality is good. It's just the numbers of players. I'm going to give you some stats here. It's in front of you. But so there's 31,000 football clubs in Germany. 31,000. Okay. And a lot of them have first teams in either the fifth, sixth, seventh, or better divisions. They do. So fifth division, there's 14 divisions of fifth division, Oberliga divisions, and they have 300 to 400 clubs in there. In sixth division, 500 to 600 clubs in Germany. Seventh division, 1,200 to 1,400 clubs. So I try to do a calculation and back it up. From the Bundesliga on to seventh division in Germany, there's estimated 75,000 players. Okay. In the US, we're talking about teams, not clubs, like we know to say. There's MLS, there's 29 teams, 20 or 30 players, so there's 400 to 600 players. And then USL and NISA. And so totally there may be, 2,500 players at the professional or semi-professional tier above college in the US. 2,500 compared to 75,000. 2,000. It's a huge difference. So, and because, the attitude of players over there, they take it seriously at any level. So it's by math, it's going to be better. I mean, it's going to be good, not better. And again, without a common opponent, it's really hard to tell. But so anyway, so there's so many teams that can do that, promote one and relegate six. That's why I brought it up. So it all balances out. And they play, and they have in Meppen, there's 31,000 people in Meppen. There's a third division team. It goes from third to fourth. And then around, Calvin will only travel maybe an hour, 2 hours max for the 17 teams in his league, in his region. Again, this is small town, little places, but they all have a club or more club. And so here's how it goes. You're in the season and there's one spot available and they finished second last year, 1 point out with 7 draws. Down to we were doing math in week 3. Where do we sit in the table? Who's doing this? Hey, they tied or they lost. We got games in hand because the weather. We're doing the math. And it's it's week 3, week 4, week 5. There's 17 weeks. And it gets more intense as it goes. And you're thinking, we blew a 2-0 lead. It's a tie. We lost 2 points. And then let me fast forward to the last game. They needed the first place team to lose, which they didn't. So they won their last 3 games. And in the middle, there was a tournament they won as well that took all season, which was another great thing. The team that they beat in the final game celebrated the fact that we didn't get promoted right in front of our faces. And so you've brought up on an occasion of what does the last place team, what satisfaction do they have in this? Well, they can screw up the top of the table with a draw or whatever. And it's real. And I've lived it now. And it's so much more exciting and entertaining that I think it's almost cruel that we don't let we let 29 owners deprive the U.S. soccer population of 4 million players of this pleasure. It's criminal to me now. Criminal.
Yeah. Yeah. And it deprives, because you were mentioning 29,000 clubs, in the structure there in Germany, kind of throughout all the divisions. We could have more than that here. If you simply opened it up, Terry, like we've discussed previously, all these clubs that have been cast in perpetuity as quote unquote youth clubs can have their adult team in the structure. So just by converting all the youth clubs in America to having an adult team somewhere in the structure, you're already at that 29,000 number. Done.
It's 31. You're confusing the 29 teams in MLS versus 31,000. 31,000.
Sure.
The difference in your is the number of clubs in the US teams.
Yeah.
Clubs.
No. I totally get it, man. I totally get it. And I get it from the entertainment perspective, and every week matters and every play matters. Now that you've lived it personally, I've lived it personally myself, not through my son, but through our clients who are littered throughout Europe in the different divisions of Europe, many of them battling relegation, many of them battling for promotion, many of them in a mid-table team that is neither all the way down or all the way up, but even through a big chunk of the season, you don't know if they're going to start drifting down towards the relegation zone or potentially drift up into some sort of European competition zone. So you feel it because I don't have my son there, but the business ramifications are huge, and the livelihood ramifications of our clients is huge if they get promoted or if they get relegated. And not only do our business implications matter, obviously, but so much on the personal front and so much on the workload front. So imagine if one of these players who should be playing Division One, let's say, and they get relegated, the club gets relegated, you all of a sudden have to get working like crazy to exit him from his club and get him to a team in the first division. So there's massive energy implications, not just for the player, but for the entire circle around that player. I could go into a whole bunch of rabbit holes here, but it's not just the player themselves, I guess what I'm saying, that experience.
No, wait. So and the circle around those Division One players is bigger than the circle around my son at sixth division.
Yeah.
Is a very small circle.
Yeah.
However, absolutely spot on. There's team implications of moving up and down for the club. There's economics. Now, you don't have to accept the promotion if you don't want to, because it requires more money. You have to get better players, they think. But so for my son, it's an individual thing that's different from the team. So he's now in his second year at sixth division. He's got to be in fifth division next year. Has to for his career, because if he's stagnant, he's going to get labeled as you've maxed out as sixth division, and I don't believe that at all. He's a late bloomer, and he's got potential to play. He's not going to play a Bundesliga. We know that, but I think he's got room to go, maybe play up 2 divisions. But he's got to get there. So if they don't get promoted, now first of all, if they do, the tide rises his stature, and he's already promoted. If he doesn't, he's got to do exactly what you say. Now he's got to find a team that'll take an American kid. And that is we're working on it now. So there's the other implication of the promotion relegation. So we're in second place and we're looking good. I think we'll win the league, but I have to, Calvin, he's a man now. He's got to look out for his career now, because if we fall 1 point short, he's in a bad spot career-wise, even though it's, again, in the grand scheme of things, am I happy? Yeah, it's great. But if he wants to get to that next level, and I think he can play at the next level, he's got to make the move. So the pressure is on in week 1. Preseason, we're talking about, all right, what if we don't get promoted? What are we going to do? If we were in a different situation and there was no promotion in relegation, you'd be like, all right, we can come back next year. We're going to try and win the league. And it's totally different. And it's not that. And there's drive to win the league, and there's drive in MLS to win MLS. I'm not saying there's not, but
it's the magnitude. It's the magnitude
and the intensity. Intensity is way different if you're actually living this.
For sure. And Terry, also, some folks here who don't have these direct experiences and are living in theoretical land, and in theoretical land, that things here, the way it's done here, is better than promotion relegation, better than open systems, they would kind of view everything that we've been saying as almost like a negative. Oh, you see, like the career implications. If somebody gets relegated, then that player is screwed. You know what I'm saying? If he has to go down with his club, they would throw out that sort of narrative. Does that make sense? Versus over here, oh, you don't even have to worry about that. It's fine. The player is okay, but they don't see the thousands, the countless who are disenfranchised to benefit that one player, that one team, or that one owner to have that status in perpetuity. They don't look at the negative associated with giving a micro minority, a nano minority, a pico minority of people the benefit of, or the entitlement of, being at the top of the heap forever.
It's not merit-based, and I have a problem with that. Because I see it.
By the way,
works nicely.
Yes. No, sorry to interrupt. Before I lose my train of thought here, you don't have to necessarily live it like you've lived it, or like I've lived it, or players overseas have lived it. I mean, it certainly helps a lot to open up your eyes, like, no doubt about it. But outside, if you're here in the States, outside of soccer, outside of the NFL, outside of sports here in the States, if you will. Not all sports, because I think individual sports have promotion relegation, because you kind of have to qualify to participate in certain tournaments, or, you still have to earn your way objectively, earn your way in and out of competitions in single player sports, okay,
Agreed.
to a large extent. But if forget the sports, if you're here in the United States, you see promotion relegation all around you. You see it in your work environment. You see it in every sort of industry. If you're in the restaurant business, if you're in the beach ball manufacturing business, if you're in the rocket ship building,
Yeah.
everybody is competing to get promoted, right? And the promotion here is acquiring customers, right? And having your product actually be successful and your service to actually be successful. Because if it sucks, guess what happens? Your competitor eats your lunch, you're out of business. Promotion relegation exists all around us, and it is intimately tied and connected to nature itself. If you want to talk about Darwin and evolution and all these things, it
Right.
is in the DNA of nature to compete and earn your way up or demote your way down the
Yep.
ladder. Predator, prey, predator, predator, you name it. So this is why I believe also it is so attractive to us from an entertainment perspective as well, more so than when it's not competitive, because it taps into something deep inside, something genetic inside of us.
It's agreed. It's a natural truism. And again, I believe it so much. I don't know how you could, I hear the arguments against, but they don't hold water with me. So I
They
get
don't hold any water, and the only way they hold water, Terry, is if you frame it, which they have done here in the States, MLS and its audience and its media. If you frame it as if, well, soccer it's just a game, guys. It's only entertainment. Why are you guys thinking it's some sort of making it more than that, right? If you diminish it to that sort of inconsequential sort of narrative, then I can understand how they have no cognitive dissonance associated with it, because it's just entertainment. What's the big deal? It's a business. They formed this league and they're just showcasing it to the public, and they want to make money. It's a business, Terry, and that's it. And soccer is a business globally, but it has to compete on merit globally.
it's so to those people, I would say, all right, you got a couple of choices I would recommend. One, if you're too lazy to get out of the United States and go somewhere where you find out it is not just entertainment, if you can't do that, watch Sunderland Till I Die on TV. If you don't want to go out of the country, you don't want to spend the money, watch that and see the implication of the extended community where the priest in church is praying to win the game for this one, or the cook is depressed that they're getting, and and the guy's getting buried in a casket with the team uniform on and the colors, and they're at the pub and they're buddies, and it's their life and their social interaction revolves around this. It is not just entertainment in many places. I would say most places around the world. And again, go there and see. You can go into, again, just sit there and watch, and go to a pub in England and just watch. And now we have it. And I've been to NFL games, and they're great. And I've been to SEC football games, and they're great. But the numbers are small. In the number of occurrences, there's only 30 NFL teams, or 32 or 36 or whatever. There's 31,000 football clubs, and they all feel like they're in the same league as those as far as emotional tie to the community. That's what they talk about on Monday at the breakfast. It's what they talk about Sunday. They argue at it's not true that it's just entertainment. It's more than that. And again, if you don't like it, you don't have to participate. But if you like it, it is good.
Yeah.
I love it. It is
Yeah.
good. And they're big businesses, and at the top level, they lose a lot of money because rich sheiks they have infinite money. They don't care. They care, but they're competing against each other, and they're man to man or whatever, owner to owner group, and they're competitive. But we could open the party, and what it would do, like you said, it would give a lot of players who love the sport a chance to play competitively post college. Like up until college, you can basically find your niche, and not a lot of kids can play college. And if you're a late bloomer, I was physically a late bloomer. My son's just late bloomer because he's an American relative to Europeans in touches on the ball and hours spent, but he's got potential. And I grew up in an environment. My father was a NFL scout and longtime multi sport coach. And so I was exposed to sports as a baby. And so I lived it and I would go, see NFL practices, and the business was just part of my life. But so I feel like I can comment on, my son objectively. He is my son, and, there's a parent bias. Sure. But I think I can step about that and just tell you, objectively, this is the opportunity that's missing in the US for 25-year-olds that want to play the game and are good is so limited now. And I'll tell you, to succeed at anything, whether it's, maybe Elon Musk is above this, but luck plays a huge role in it, because you're in a situation where you get picked by a coach because at the moment he needs or she needs X, and you, in their eyes, are X. You might not be X, but they need you and they want you. And so you get picked, and sometimes they're wrong a lot of times. And so, but you got lucky and you got picked, and 10 guys didn't get picked.
Yeah. And in an open system, Terry, the opportunity or the probability or the number of opportunities that getting picked grows. When it's a closed system, there are so few gatekeepers and so few opportunities to get picked. It might come across, but it might not come across. If you're born in the wrong city, in the wrong state, or you're in the wrong club, or you're in the wrong circumstance, and those abound in the United States because it is a closed system, the chances of getting picked are almost zero. End of story, no matter how good you are. If the system is open, then it doesn't mean you're going to make it, but the opportunities, the probability of you getting picked for some level at least drastically increases, because all of a sudden, it doesn't matter as much as where you're born, what city you live in, what state you live in, because all those cities and in all those states have adult teams in the 6th tier, in the 7th tier, in the 5th tier, the 3rd tier, whatever it happens to be, there is a chance now of getting picked. And great, you're not going to start out in LA or in Dallas or in Seattle or in Miami or whatever. Fine. But there is a pathway if you're in North Dakota or Lincoln, Nebraska, or Omaha, Nebraska, or whatever the heck city it happens to be. You're going to have, as a 17-year-old, you might have to start off in the 5th tier. No problem. But you're now playing in a regional league, because that's what I would presume the 5th tier is. You're competing in a regional league. Maybe you become the best guy in that regional 5th division league, and now the opportunity to getting picked for USL championship all of a sudden, presents itself to you. But if that doesn't exist, which it doesn't exist in the state, it's over. You are done. There are no opportunities.
There isn't. If you're not that lucky pick, so in Europe, you can, and promotion will help you. You can get promoted, and all of a sudden you become on the radar. And let's say you're a 3rd division or 2nd division team, or even the Bundesliga. They're not looking at 6th division players, but they'll look at 3rd and 4th. All right. But if you survive long enough, from 5th, you get promoted, and all of a sudden you're in 3rd and 4th, and you're exposed, and you have a chance to live to fight another day. If you don't have that structure, you get picked when you're 12, you're on the fast track. And if you're not on the track, you're out. I forget whether it was the U.S. team against the Mexico game, or it was advertised as a Hispanic heritage match.
Was it? I don't even know.
One of them was. It's one of the last 2 games, and yet we don't have a Hispanic in the starting 11, right? As far as I know.
Gosh, let me see. I completely ignored the national team's first game against Panama. Was it Panama? I think it was against Panama. I saw off and on the game against Mexico, because honestly, I could give 2 fucks about the U.S. men's national team. That this federation doesn't represent me. I think I'm not going to go down that path.
Let's look over there. But
I kind of adjacently paid attention. So who were the starters? I don't think there was a Latino.
There wasn't. So it strikes me as, there's that disenfranchised community of a gazillion players who have skill, and they have no pathway.
And that's the other thing. That's the other thing, Terry. Like your son, if it was open here, great. Going to Europe, don't get me wrong, phenomenal experience for all the things that you already listed out. He grew up into a man. He toughened up. He had to live through all kinds of travel nightmares and all kinds of other challenges and obstacles in his way, living alone, away from mom and dad. Put that aside for the time being. But if the system were open here, your son or players like him wouldn't have to, and families like him wouldn't have to find an alternative pathway and ship their son overseas. They know because there's a pathway here. You would just perhaps stay in the States, perhaps stay in the Carolinas and compete.
Yep.
Maybe not. Maybe you want all those ancillary benefits that your son benefited from going overseas. But the point is, you wouldn't have to go that route.
No, but look at the odds. And I hear this and I assume it's true. 2% of the players make it to college soccer. 98%, where do you go? You're done. And you're 18 years old. And I can tell you, my son is better at 20 than he was at 18. He's going to be better at 21 than 20.
Yeah, especially if you love it and this is just something that you want to continue doing, even if, because I hear the naysayers in the back of my head, Terry, even if the naysayers come out and say, yeah, but Gary, Terry, let's be real. All the players that you're talking about, they aren't going to be on the national team. They aren't going to be in MLS. They aren't going to be, in the Bundesliga or whatever. So who the fuck cares? Who cares? Who cares if they're not going to be in the first division? Players want to compete. They love the sport. Let them find their way and see how far they can get. Maybe they get only to the second division or the third or the whatever the fuck it is. Who cares?
They're experiencing the highest of highs that you can do. And I saw at the end of the season last year, I saw grown men crying because they knew their careers were over. And so the goalie in particular was a super good guy. His kids were there and he's just bawling his head off knowing he played third division and now his career's over at 31 or whatever. Fantastic player again. And just, he's crying as hard as losing all right, not the World Cup, but it's so somewhere.
It matters. Let's just say it matters.
It matters. He's not going to feel any more high than high and low than low. And it's sixth division. And again, his career. But he had a chance to play and extend the thing he loves to do. Right?
Yeah.
And now the poor guy's got to go to work. And the chances of him loving work is unlike us, Gary. We don't really.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but man, it's good that you had all these experiences, man. I'm glad you had them and it's not over yet. You're going to have many more.
I am. And can we end with my little self-serving plug of our trip to Argentina?
Go for it.
So if you have a middle school or high schooler and you're a good player, you're invited to contact us at acceleratorschool.com. We go every year on an international trip to what Gary likes to call a soccer first culture. And we're going back to Argentina for the third time. And we're going to go to Buenos Aires and Rosario. And is your family not from Rosario?
They are. Yep.
So we're doing an homage to Argentina winning the World Cup and Messi. And we are super well connected there. And we'll provide a link on there, but you're invited to come with us and it'll be in March, late March. But what we do is we're well connected. We're going to see two first division games. We're going to see one at Newell's Old Boys for sure. And then we're deciding whether, and it depends on how the schedule comes out in not till January, whether we go to Boca or River. We'll do that. And I've been to both of them and I've been to Newell's for the Banderaza, which is another wild experience. But and then we'll probably train with Rossing, although that's not in for sure. And we get our kids to train in the club. We don't just get their coaches to come out. We do that too, but we'd be better off just flying the coach to the US. So we go there and we can immerse you into the training environment and we'll play a specific level of games so that you're taught a lesson, but not demoralized. Okay. Mm-hmm. And last year we had this great group from Venice Beach and they had an excellent time and games there. It's a great club down in Southern California. I encourage you to go visit them, by the way. They do something different. They've got it right. And they play a lot of friendlies against a competition that I think is spot on. But they went last year, had a good time. So I'm inviting anybody that wants to you're welcome to put a team if you're interested in that. But if you want an individual, you want to experience a little bit more football than the soccer tourism things that, again, a lot of people do and go on. And they're great. But you go on one, you should probably do something a little bit more football centric. And we do that. And so you get to wear the kit of the club and you're in there and you're getting taught in Spanish and you get to see, it's a reality check on where you are in the world. Right. And then you can I tell everybody when you get in the parking lot in Argentina, you can feel a little bit different, the single and the tension and everybody who's not playing has a Messi shirt on from little tiny messy shirts to until they can get in the club where they trade their club shirt for their messy shirt. And I'm sure they cry if they don't get the number 10.
Yeah.
And then there's so much to talk about there, but we're long. So
Well,
let's
all I can say is if I had the time, I would spend the money to just go watch some games in Argentina. Period. That alone,
hey, we can get to tickets.
that alone will change your perspective. If you've, well, I'm speaking as if you've never been out of the country, right? I think
Yep.
that alone will kind of broaden your mind a bit.
Oh, and it's not just the game. It's the morning of, the tension in the air, the security you go through, the drunken ultras that are there. And, and I try and go every chance I get it. Geez, I almost got swept up in a ultra fight in Bordeaux.
Well,
It was,
don't say that. Your families are going to be like, "Oh my God, I'm not
no,
going there." I'm
this,
kidding. I'm
this
kidding.
was an
Yeah,
uncontrolled circuit. This was me as
sure.
an individual, but I was at a Europa playoff game. The team from near Russia, they just got out of control. Anyways, but to experience that, and we guarantee as much safety as we can, and knock on my head, we haven't had a problem. But that environment is just crazy, and some of the best derbies. And I tell everybody, I'm the luckiest guy in soccer. I've been to places I don't deserve to be. And yeah, I went to the Sevilla Betis derby, and it was killer. It's good as sports get.
Yeah.
It's good. It's just excitement. And so, anyways, we will see two of the first division games in Argentina, but really you can do that on other trips too. But what we do is we immerse you in the club, so you get to train. And we say we have these guys at this level, they go to this level. These guys at this level go and whatever, and then we play games. And rule of thumb, we usually play an age group and at least one level down.
When is this again? What are the dates?
So March 29th through April 7th. So we would like people to fly together with us in Miami. And if you're interested, please contact us. We want people to live it. I mean, we're in it to make money. We're in it to make you a rabid promotion relegation fan.
Actually, that's a good point that you bring up about not in it to make money, because let's be real, Terry, we don't make money in soccer. Okay. If anything, we've lost a shit ton of money in soccer. The opportunity cost is off the chart. Okay. With respect to making money in soccer, nobody's getting rich. Very few people, if any, get rich off of soccer. This is more a labor of love, a passion project for different reasons. You obviously have your son that clearly has motivated you in many respects to follow along in this path. And myself, I don't know, the Argentine culture, the excellence, the remarkable capabilities of my brother in
Yep.
coaching kind of reeled me in. But from a making money perspective, please, I could be 10x better off from a financial perspective if I never dedicated an ounce of time to soccer. So this has nothing to do with that. I'm not going to speak for you. I'm speaking for myself here, but I think that we have a lot in common here. Things cost money. If you want to rent fields, they cost money. If you want to get coaches, they cost money. If you want to rent facilities, they cost money. If you want to buy airline tickets, they cost money. If you want to get hotels, it costs money. If you want to get meals, it costs money. Everything costs money. So guys, in order to even execute a project, there's a cost basis, okay? And it has to be covered. So whatever it is that here Terry is offering or something, I can tell you for sure, especially his background, chief technology officer of a medical device company, and your long history, he's not here to, oh my God, I'm going to make a profit. It has zero to do with that.
No, I want to share this experience because it's been great for me. And again, I've worked hard as my sons dragged me into the soccer world. I've got an older son that started me off, but then my friend Sean Leonard, if he's going to listen to it, he told me, you got to hear these 343 guys.
Mm.
And then it just grew. And then I met John Kerr, and he's a Duke coach, and his son's doing well, graduate of Accelerator School, starting at Duke and playing a lot of minutes, and was freshman academic, all ACC, so
Awesome.
it's good. And people that know it's that you get bitten by the game, and it's a love affair, and it's good. It's good.
Yeah, I want to actually tie this in because I never had a rant like that on this money thing necessarily before. I want to tie in the professional level a little bit. So you mentioned earlier the sheiks, the oil money, or the Russian oligarchs that are in the game, or the billionaires here, the Home Depot guy, Arthur Blank, and all these guys, they're very similar in many respects. You said, oh, the oil sheiks just throw money away, right? The Saudi League just throw money away. They're not really in it for a profit. There's all these ancillary reasons to be involved. There's all these ancillary reasons to invest or, basically burn money on the game, whether it be political, cultural, or personal, for personal reasons. You just want to do it there's different reasons, Terry, I guess is my point. And
Yep.
it just ties into the promotion relegation thing as well, because folks here in the States always talk about the business side of things, right? It's like, guys, it's not a typical sort of business.
No, but it does, if it was allowed to be, it would be a very predictable capitalistic business that would suck in a ton of money if we had promotion. Because look at the money that's on there. This is another podcast we did before. The billionaires that don't get a MLS franchise have billions of dollars. They're not investing in soccer.
Yeah, sitting on the sideline, or they go overseas for it.
So how many teams get in every year and how many apply? So let's say there's 3-1. 3 don't get in. There's 3 groups that were willing to put in billions of dollars into MLS they're not going to put it into 6th division unless they had promotion relegation. Then they would. And look at all the Americans buying clubs in the US. They're doing it part, but it's not like the sheiks who have infinite money. But again, and then there's the owners, and you've talked about this too in the past, the ancillary profit of just like losing money to build the franchise value. They're going to get their money back. And maybe then some. In MLS, they're making a lot of good money, even if and we don't see the books, so we don't know, but let's assume they're losing money operationally every year, but their value of the franchise, because it's an artificially created scarcity, is going up. So they can do it. But at the rest of the level, we're doing it for passion because, as the old saying goes, the easiest way to make $1 million in soccer is start with 2.
All right, Terry, it's a good place to stop, man. Any parting remarks? You mentioned go to acceleratorschool.com.
And again, if people see it on your website, click and contact me or the school and we'll set you up. But we will screen a little bit. I have to tell you, we're not taking just everybody. You got to be a player. But if you want to be a better player, get calibrated. This is a good way to do it.
Perfect, Terry. That was awesome, dude.
I love talking to you, buddy. Anytime.
It's been a while. So I'm glad to hear that the storm and all that stuff didn't directly impact you, but it must have been a little scary.
People do not understand the devastation that happened. It's a different type of damage. The infrastructure, there's this windy mountain roads and there's no place to put the road now because that's just flat part's gone. And so Interstate 40 is a big thoroughfare in the United States. Trouble. The people are tough there and they didn't get the media coverage that they did on X, as you pointed out. And I get my information from X nowadays too. But they're tough mountain people, but they took a hard one, a really hard one. I live on the Piedmont, the flat part of the state, and we just got a little rain, but devastating up there. And the body count's not done. It's way higher. And I mean, my heart goes out to them. They're fellow state North Carolinians, and they're basically good people up there, and they got a bad situation. But thanks for asking. How's your brother doing real quick?
He's good. I don't know if you saw the news that he landed a USL League One job.
Love that he's coaching. Yep.
Yeah. So obviously it's a brand new franchise. So he gets to start it from scratch, basically, and build it kind of in his image as much as possible, obviously. And there's pros and cons to that. Pro is obviously you don't inherit a player pool necessarily. You get to pick and choose. And a potential con is, everybody is learning from scratch, right? So you also don't land in a well-oiled machine. So there's all those other sort of things. So I'm super happy. It definitely is a load off of my shoulders in many respects because he gets to do what he apparently has been born to do. And at the level that progresses him, he gets to finally coach professionally and no longer kids, right? No longer youth. And then, if things go well, again, back on track.
Again, I wish him the best. And the soccer world is better that he's in it coaching.